I have given beyond the call of in terms of agreed time also, and yet we are now running for time in terms of closing this session on time. And there are three important questions, one each to each three of us here. I will still deliver. I request them at least in their responses to manage the time now. Without going too much of a summarization, Professor Subramanian highlighted on the cultural aspects in terms of performance and reward management. He brought in the concept of how even MNCs or significant MNCs are tending to be more exploitative today than any time in history. I think he's also giving a note of warning whether we are going back to the type of revival of leftism, which explains why today the employees and unions are quiet. They are quiet, but we don't know whether we're inviting again the wrath for another bad day and a hopeless IR scenario in the future. Me and JM and our generation will not be there to handle those IRs that we have handled in murky days of 60s and 70s. But none of today's MBAs and MHRMs are willing or equipped to deal with that type of IR if at all it comes. I wish it doesn't, but it may. You also highlighted on wage differentiation, and I think this is getting to be really the ultimate. Because the differential between the CEO or the chairman or whosoever and the general worker, what used to be maximum 1:15 is now 1:2,500 or 25,000 also. We have very modest CEOs who after 100 crores per annum salary are still not satisfied. So no wonder. It is not a phenomenon only in the Far East or in Australia and New Zealand continent. I think it is happening everywhere. Man by nature is exploitative, is a sociological phenomenon. I will not go back. In sociology, it teaches us all change is cyclical, and we invite the cycle of change to our own disadvantage. Let us be wary about it. That's the point that I made. And even my wife never managed me in terms of the intelligence for time management as my friend Mr. Mani has done. And in the process, he certainly brought in a lot of experiences that we had with the same. He talked about the changing business scenarios and business profiles. He talked about robust differentiation, and there is a commonality as far as differentiation is concerned in the presentations. He talked about engagement. The more we talk about engagement, what I notice is more and more people are getting disengaged in every company. There is no big company which has succeeded today in terms of that engagement. Very true. In fact, none. And he also highlighted on the need for innovation. That is indisputable. The only way to survive is through innovation. But how to develop innovative culture? There are not many glorious examples other than in the Western continent, somebody like Korea. And he also talked about the various councils of PM. Briefly, these are some of the highlights that they put in. I also noticed that the more as a consultant today going around and talking to various people and expectations of the people we invite me for consulting work, deep within the melody is we are back to the earlier days of scientific management. We now take people no more than as goats, as buffaloes. For all the nice words that we use here, the reality is we are treating people like cattle. So you give more money, he will break his back. I swear, you go and relate to anybody who is now in the first 5-10 years of work life in today's organizations. If I am proved wrong, I will give back my doctorate. Because that is a challenge that is in front of us. And I think if NIPM work really address to this issue, we may have to reinvent ourselves and regenerate our points of view and rethink our different gratitude really to touch the people, not at the cerebral level, but at the heart level. I think we are not reaching out to the people at the heart level. There is a great conflict between performance and potential in award and reward management. James will recall, you will recall a great case. We had one of our officers in one of the units in ITC. He was not promoted. When he was expecting promotion, he went to the boss, said, "Boss, I expected promotion. How is it I did not get a promotion?" He said, "Well, We wanted you to perform. You performed all right, but you don't have the potential for the next higher job, so you are not considered for promotion. Wait 1 year, you should be able to do it. Come next year, again he did not get it. This time the explanation is that you have shown the potential, but in this 1 year the performance was not. Damn you are not. And you can easily see how you can use and play the words around to deny rather than really recognize. Because, in my opinion, the managements and HR people are getting more maligned because whatever the transparency we talk, there is a deep dishonesty in the approach. And I'm very clear. I'm left with 12 minutes. In 12 minutes, 3 questions. One to me, one to Professor Brown, and one to Mr. Bhagirathi. I'll give him the last chance because he has to manage his work. Now I'll take my time. And this is a very good question. This is from Professor Manas Ranjan Tripathi from IBS. Very serious. Professor? Yes, sir. Manas Ranjan. Thank you. It's a nice question. I don't know whether I'm capable of responding to the good question. I'll try my best. He's talking in terms of how to design a performance management system which can administer towards the R&D people. Because professionally, these people, they find it very difficult in terms of project management, and they will not be able, they are not able to really complete the project on time. So is there a PMS that can deal with this? That's probably the question. I'm never a prescriptive man. I'm more a suggestive person. I do my best to be suggestive in a limited time. I don't think it is a fraternity who are failing in terms of deliverables, particularly in R&D. Whether it is R&D or HRD, wherever D is there, wherever development is there, it is an imponderable. Because it is connected with first the clarity of the deliverables, the clarity in terms of the type of resources that are required, the clarity in terms of time management associated with the R&D activity and the deliverables, and most important, the type of bureaucratic hurdles with which we put the fetters on the R&D. In one case, I was addressing 150 people, R&D setup perfect, very good, public limited company. And the scientific people who were there to give certain deliverables, they told me, sir, we wanted a key raw material for our pilot project. The sanction we asked for 1,000 rupees. 1,000 rupees. 30 days later also they did not get sanctioned for 1,000 rupees. And the CEO says that I am all for R&D. Now that is what exactly I said in the earlier word. It is not your good intent. It is your good action that will give you good outcome. If a CEO can't release 1,000 rupees and you keep 60 to 80 people in R&D idle for the sake of 1,000 rupees, what will you expect? So therefore, in putting a PMS around them, but first be clear in terms of the project objectives, what are the deliverables, the time frames, the key resources required, including time as a factor, and like Peter Senge and learning organization, because he referred to learning organization, please remember, delay is inevitable. I'm repeating, delay is inevitable. Much as we want to manage, delay is inevitable.
Mostly the issues or effects of short-sighted strategies was spoken. What solutions do you offer to overcome such effects in MNCs in developing countries? MNCs in developing countries, they should not take the human resource or the people of developing countries just for a right. Whatever the approach they follow in their home country, at least a reasonably amended policy, if they follow in developing countries, they should think of an integrated approach rather than exploit, make a quick bucks out of it, and then let. So rather than having this short-sighted approach, if they follow an integrated approach of taking into consideration not only just the economic principle, the humanistic principle, as well as the holistic approach towards the human resource. So when they take the holistic approach to the I think it's okay. Is it okay? Thank you.
No, I'll take 1 minute. But I'll take 2 minutes. Can I see you, Mr. Raghav? Yeah, you are working in Dr. Reddy's. Yeah. Thanks. That's a very interesting question. The question is like this: when an employee workman is bound to work for 8 hours, why should one go for any incentive scheme? Let me take you back to something else. Huh? Then I'll talk to you something. You must have been a child. Okay? You must have been, there must have been your parents, there must have been your grandfather, there must have been grandmother. Certain things come because of their responsibility towards you to groom you up. But over and above, every time your grandmother gave you something which your parents cannot be knowing. Okay, that's a different story altogether. But what matters in a working environment, let me connect it to the working environment. This bound to work 8 hours.
To the chairperson, Dr. R.C. Sastry.
Side.
Professor P. Subbarao and Sri Bhagirathi Dhar.
Yeah.
The nature of human resource management has become more challenging because of today's complex legal environment. HR compliance is a necessity for any business. Indeed, regulations and laws govern all aspects of human resource management, including recruitment, placement, development, and compensation areas. Now I take privilege in inviting Dr. Vijay Sarathi, Director HR, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, Mumbai. I request Shri Dr. Vijay Sarathi sir to kindly grace the dais. The three speakers for this session are Professor C. Apparao, former Director Personnel, Rashtriya Ispat Nigam Limited, Visakhapatnam Steel Plant. I request Professor C. Apparao sir to kindly come on to the dais. The second speaker for the session is Shri A. Victor, General Manager, Bharat Heavy Electrics Limited. I request Shri A. Victor sir to kindly come on to the dais. The third speaker for the session is Shri P.K. Mati, DGM HR GAIL. I request Shri P.K. Mati sir to kindly raise the dais.
Dr. Vijay Sarathi is the Director, Human Resources of Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. He worked in human resources, industrial relations, refineries, marketing and corporate divisions of HPCL during the last 30 years. He was conferred with various awards for his valuable services, including the most powerful HR Professional Award by Asia's Best Employer Grant Awards, Singapore, in the year 2010. Dr. Sarathi has been appointed as Advisor, Minimum Wages Board, Government of India. Besides being on the board of HPCL, he is also the chairperson of CREDA HPCL Biofuel Limited.
Now I take privilege in introducing to you all Professor C. Apparao. Professor C. Apparao acquired bachelor degree and LLB, MBA degrees, ACS from Company Secretaries Institute of India, certificate in HRM, Oxford University, UK. He held various positions including General Manager, Personnel and Executive Director, Personnel in public sector and private sector. Professor Apparao was also trained in advanced HR management at Templeton College, Oxford University, UK. Currently, he is working as Professor of HR in Geetham Institute of Management, Geetham University. Professor Apparao published 6 research papers in reputed journals. He is an author of 2 textbooks, namely Business Policy and Strategic Management and Organizational Behavior. These books are prescribed by various universities of MBA courses.
Shri A. Victor did his BA degree from the Tyagaraja College, Chennai, and completed his master's degree in social works from Loyola College, Chennai. Shri A. Victor joined Haridwar Unit BHEL as executive trainee and worked in HPBP and SSTP divisions in various capacities. He was subsequently posted to BHEL Region Operations Division, Chennai, and later joined Hyderabad Unit of BHEL. He was elevated as General Manager HR and is currently heading the HR functions of the unit. He is a thorough HR professional having a vast experience and highly successful track record. He is the Vice Chairperson of NIPM AP Chapter and works in forefront in organizing various workshops and seminars.
The third speaker for the session, Shri P.K. Marti. Shri P.K. Marti is a Department General Manager HR in GAIL India Limited and Navratna PSU. He is at present posted in Madhya Pradesh in Gunia. He is the head of HR department of GAIL's second biggest plant. He has more than 20 years of experience in core HR in GAIL's biggest plant. He is part of this plant right from construction, commissioning, stability and operation maintenance for more than 10 years. He has also worked as head HR in GAIL's plants in Gujarat, Northeast, GAIL Gas, etc. He has also been associated in various CSR projects of GAIL and was management representative in signing of long-term settlements with unions. With these, I now hand over the session to the chairperson of this session. Thank you.
My colleague speakers and fellow professionals. In fact, it's a very happy note that I have been here to speak with you and share with you the thoughts on the issue. So before we start, we talk about the rules of the game, which I have been just now told. Time management is very essential. The entire session time has been given of 1.5 hours. So what we divide among the speakers so that we be time bound is that about 25 minutes for each speaker, and I talk about 10 minutes and give the time for our colleague professionals to have a question and answer session so that we can go about. See, HR and legal environment. Unfortunately, today, legal environment has no time bound because of the stipulations what we have in the country, and various judiciaries that are open for the people is a testing time for the people entire the country. This is what exactly, first we talk about the legal and what is the relation with HR and what are the implications. See, the Honorable Supreme Court has made it observation very clearly. Legal cannot be static, like anything cannot be static. It changes what is an eminent issue which is a prevalent one. Like when legal also has to be changed to socio-economic reasons of the society. That's why the Constitution has been amended so many times. The acts that have been amended from time to time. But now what is the funniest part in this is, each act, if you look into the labor legislation, because we have more than 500 acts in this country which are not known to most of the people, but unfortunately what happened, ignorance is not a bliss, and anybody can be put into the problem, but non-compliance of the act, we cannot say that we are not aware. So the codified law should be codified in such a way that the people are brought under one legislation, which at least they can, as far as the labor laws are concerned, if they are codified, it will be better way of implementation and reduce the Inspector Raj, what we call about, which as a hurdle for the entire system. But what's happening today, you please observe and examine the various provisions, for example, the Industrial Disputes Act. The Industrial Disputes Act, if even today, the definition of industry is challenged after when it was enacted in 47, we talk about now today, almost 63, 64 years. The interpretations have drawn from the wider courts in various ways. At one particular time, definition has been given one, and other particular time it was given because the judges feel yes, it has to be, there is no doubt, it cannot be static, but the confusions that are being created has created more and more problem and more legal issue. See, this is what, if you look to the Contract Labour Act, the judgment given in the sale issue, this is what exactly when I was called as a amendment to Labour Laws Committee by the Labour Ministry, I pointed out one thing is, if we look into the scenario today, who has been benefited by the entire system? The Supreme Court, what I said is that the courts, high courts or others have the automatic regularization, and it has to be educated by tribunals but not by anybody. So no High Court has no power to grant any relief under this. So what happened to the scenario? The poor workmen, they collected, the leaders collect their bonuses which annually they get it and pay the legal fee. And ultimately the battleground has been shifted to the industrial tribunals and national tribunals. So from the courts, the high courts, we are going there, and management, we are engaging all the lawyers, whatever the possible legal leverage available, paying up whatever through the nose and all that. So what happened today is that the Section 10, the entire craziness of this entire labor, contract labor regulation about Act speared round on the Section 10 because of the permanency, because of the different social conditions between the permanent employees and the contract labor. The craziness of the contract labor to become permanent has led to this scenario, and they have to shut down. Years together, the battle will continue. We are paying, so lawyers are benefiting, and they go into that. So time has come, has to review the entire system of labor laws, because as far as we confine ourselves, but the judiciary itself with a very large scope. Why not? Why not you make, if the contract labor system is allowed under certain conditions, let us be open and frank. Because today what will happen, in the system in the country, today suppose you abolish the contract labor. This is what has been said. Take a live example. Where you have today, employment is one area which in this country we have problem. You have a contract labor number where the management doesn't exercise any control in the recruitment or service conditions. So, it will be the minute you abolish, if you have a contract labor today 100, it will become 30 for the permanent, because the certain, who is at loss? And where the, because if unemployment grows, it leads to the social eruption of the entire thing, which is a dangerous thing for the country to have it. So the time has come. Why not? The people has to come out openly, realize yes, we have to improve their better conditions and remove the Section 10 which talks about all this regularization issue. So likewise, if you look into that, today what's happening is the litigations are enormous. The litigation, you go to one court, thereafter to other court, thereafter to up to the final to Supreme Court. Even if it is Supreme Court, you are not satisfied, you can go further, also for a special petition on that. So where it ends, ultimately the entire time is lost. And the different judgments, if you look into that, after misconduct of an employee, again there are various type of judgments on the same issue, the opinion that has been expressed. See, for example, after 27, 20 years here, 28 years, a judgment has come, and the Honorable Supreme Court, when talking about dismissal employee, only for those days, annas, 4 annas, so which is 25, but 4 annas, they said dismissal is valid. Reason being, it is not the amount, it is the intention, it is the act that is valid. When you come back to the Indian Labor Act Section 11A, now the people are talking about quantum of punishment vis-a-vis. Where is the similarity? So this dichotomy scenario is really putting entire HR into a different form of legal battle. So there should be a system. For example, I talk about the civil. Today in India, if you are staying in any house, you can, if you don't want to get, you can go on making the litigation and the owner will cry. That is why in Bombay today more than 2.5 lakhs or 3 lakh houses are under lock and key. But if in a country like US, the lease agreement is over, next day the sheriff will come and throw you out and give you the bill for throwing you out also. You have to pay for that. That is the system. Why you want a litigation further on that? You have entered into an agreement. Once an agreement entered, it is the duty of the parties to honor the agreement. And so we are allowing, this is where the scenario what is happening is, ultimately 3 lakh houses are in Bombay which have been built up who could not occupy are under lock and key. That is why the entire problem. So the HR now, because has to be well versed in all the laws, because today the RTI which has come into picture, yes, is a transparency is required. They know, because now RTI is helping the system. People be doubly careful. They cannot behave the way they like. They cannot violate the rules what they want. But then you have to be doubly careful, because what is the scope? Of course, it's a question now which is being debated across the country. Anyhow, it will take some shape, whether the Prime Minister notings has to be out, or cabinet decisions has to be out, or some of the issue, or even CBA whether to be included or not, these are the issues. But then the question is, see what happens, this is where HR has and the legal environment to ensure the guidance for the entire company, because normally people are not educated on the legal environment. So now today the violation of labor laws are under strict, the environment laws are under strict. Now the right to information is, it is much more, because now the people are being questioned about their actions if they are not bona fide. So first the HR has to do that. Their fellow colleagues in the industry, they have to be educated very much on this direction, so that there is no any leeway around for anybody to interfere in the matter. Because luckily in India damages are not that, but in abroad damages runs into millions of dollars if there is a violation, including right from a sexual harassment case to any violation. Things are, it can put the company into doldrums on bankrupt and insolvency issue. So legal things are assuming that